there is a series of pipes that you find, and there's a waterfall that you need to get behind.
Okay.
And so first off, your character's like, what are these pipes doing in a pirate game? And eventually you're like, okay, well, I need some sort of wrench to shut these pipes off. So you go to some other area, and there's a monkey playing piano, and there's a metronome on the piano, and you might find that you have a banana in your inventory. So you interact with the metronome and the banana. You put the banana on the metronome. Monkey's focused on the banana on the metronome. Yeah. You pick up the monkey. You put the monkey in your pocket. You go all the way to this old island that has these pipes that you may or may not remember. You're like, how am I supposed to work with this? So you get the monkey and you use it with the pipes. And he's a monkey wrench, so he shuts the waterfall off.
What is up, everybody? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, SparStar, coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hour. I hope you're having a great day. We have an excellent guest with us here, a standout at SparStar. We'll get to know him in just a second. Camera back on me, though. For right now, if you guys are watching this and you like the show, and I hope that you do, it would be great if you go to patreon.com/Grappling Hour and you become a member of the Grappling Hour community. What do you get with it? For $5 a month, you get to see my interviews 30 days before anybody else. And for a few extra dollars, you get to see extra bonus content not available anywhere else. But Raph, what kind of bonus content do you get? Well, for the premium users, you get tape studies with some of our friends, a lot of people who fight in big prominent matches for the UFC or major grappling competitions. We've got a lot of friends all over the place. We like to do a lot of tape studies. You also get to see extra bonus content, meaning like extra podcasts or audio episodes that we don't release anywhere else. And finally, there's a segment that everybody loves that I don't love, but you guys really seem to enjoy, and it's called Roast Raph, where people roast my competition footage. So basically, it's not meant to teach any of us a damn thing, but we hope that the athletes are funny and have good jokes about sometimes what my takedowns look like, because, you know, they're okay. You know what I mean? Like, they're not like Gary Tonin level, but like Gary Tonin doesn't tell a good joke. So, like, I feel like we're even in this world. That's all. Let alone write a full sentence. Have you seen that man on Twitter? It is rough. That dude does not know when a semicolon begins or... Anyway, he's not here. We'll leave him alone for the time being. But Gary Tonin did actually do an episode of Roast Raph, so that's why we use him as an example. So there's that. All right. Last couple of reminders here. Like, comment, and subscribe. If not for me, how about for our guest? You like him. And if you don't know what you want to comment on, by the end of the episode, we'll give you a topic to go ahead and plug. If you like this merch, the Grappling Hour t-shirt or a hoodie, check us out at rapsparza.com/merch and go to Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Find us there at Grappling Hour. Last but not least, if you want to join our Discord, you'll continue the conversations we have here on the show. All right, let's get to our guest. So I saw this young man do an incredible job in his last fight at SparStar. I had the honor and the pleasure of commentating his match. And then when I went to go interview him inside of the cage, he had more personality than most of the people who are involved in this community. He had a great post-match interview, and I reached out to him and I said, hey, listen, kid, would you like to do an interview and come train? And not only did he come train today, but he also gave some great rounds to my white belts. So why don't we go and welcome, for the very first time, one Bryce Olivas. How are you doing, sir?
Hey.
Oh, wait. I like that my goons are clapping for him like this is the Tonight Show.
These guys that have gotten real close in the last few minutes. I'm real happy with them. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You know what? We're going to bring you a lot more, Adrian, to be the fake studio audience that we pumped in. Thank you so much for being so nice and working with our guys. They're getting ready for a competition. You jumped right in and you didn't hesitate at all. And you were giving them great rounds. I really appreciate that, sir.
Yeah, don't expect me to give great rounds to anyone above white belts, but but you got
that.
the white belts.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
good. I'm good messing with those guys.
My man's trying with the self-deprecation here. We're not gonna let him live this life. That's my job, guy. One guy with glasses gets to do self-deprecation. The other dude wins fights.
Yeah, I came in with my own shtick. I had it prepared on the way over, man.
I understand that. I would tell you this, though. You were so nice to them. You were so great. And then we got the chance to train for a little bit. And again, I always appreciate when the athletes are kind enough to come out this way and do some training. How did you like your experience here at Milton Arguello's Mixed Martial Arts Academy?
Great experience here at Milton.
Arguello's.
Milton Arguello's.
Yeah, there we go.
Arguello's. I had to make sure to say it into the mic.
So same thing. You know how people screw up your last name? This dude, you don't see it here, but he actually got like the accent marks or the little. Things.
Okay.
So when the first time I said his name, I was Milton Arguello, and he's like, Milton Arguello. And I was like, whatever you call it, dude. I don't even care anymore.
Oh, so I didn't even say it right after I corrected myself.
You were not in the realm of correct, but I would tell you this: I was amused. So
all right.
I think that's really the only audience you got to care about. So okay. You come here, the experience was good. You got in some good rounds, yeah?
Yeah, the boys look like they're really trying to learn. I like that they pushed themselves,
Yeah.
They kept working even when they were tired, and that I think it was that homie Gabe. I was like, that's where you got to go, man. You got to do it again tomorrow.
It's so funny because, my class is always structured a certain way. I like a lot of Q&A for my guys because I like them to invent what they think is wrong in their head so that they can map out how to become better and more self-sufficient. So you see me after every round literally being like, ask me questions.
Yeah.
Because I know what I need to fix. The issue isn't how do we fix it? It's how quickly are we going to get there? And is it going to be they figure it out or they kind of come up with I get stuck in half guard? And what I noticed with you is you had this really sweet north-south choke that I was like, I didn't even see that in your fight. So kudos to you, sir.
Thanks. Yeah, I got stuff in the back pocket. Yeah, I'm not like, I think my jiu-jitsu is very acceptable. It's just more focused on controlling and pressure and landing strikes. I have a submission game. It's just like. It's like option 4, but you don't ever want to be caught in a situation and not know what to do. So, obviously train everything.
I like to say this, that one of the things that I noticed in your fight is that you were well-rounded. Like, we'll get into the specific details of why this interview came to be, but I liked that particular fight at SparStar 64, you got to show a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And for me, when I get to see like a sampler plate of your stuff, I go, you know what? There's some talent to what you're doing. And what I like to tell people is, as an observer, a commentator, sometimes I can kind of see the next steps for you. And I'm like, oh, if he's doing this now, where he's at, coming up nice is going to be this, or he's going to develop this. So even when you were showing off today and like getting the super cool, like, north-south choke, I was like, the last time we left off, you made a Americana a weapon in an MMA fight. So before you start being like, oh shucks, my jiu-jitsu, I don't know. Who does that, sir? Like, who makes that almost be a submission to the point where we saw it kind of end a fight, but it continued on nonetheless. Yeah. So can you tell us what happened in the fight from your perspective? Because when you shared that with me in the post-match, I was like, oh, I didn't know this. I just had a thought. So give us the context if you would be so kind.
Yeah, I assume you're talking about just like when he tapped. Yeah. So, just in side control, and I saw the Americana, I think like pretty much as soon as we were inside control, but I was like, that's not going to work. And I just kind of wanted to keep hitting him more and really get my ground and pound off. My first fight, I had just like nothing but takedowns. I had a little bit of control time, but the judges didn't give it to me. And judging is judging, but I always kind of want to not give them any room for error. So I was just more focused on striking. and that's what we train to, like, get someone in a position where you can control them and then beat them up, and they're gonna move and give you whatever. So that's basically what happened. I was hitting him, and he squirmed around, couldn't get away, but he was like hitting me in the face, I think, and I told him, I was like, I'm gonna eat that all day. You're in a terrible position. So I just caught his hand and I started cranking it. But I felt it get really tense, and it was about to feel gross. I was about to be traumatized, so I had to take care of my own psyche. And so I heard him yelling tap, and I was like, okay, well, I'll let it go, because the ref was getting close, and I thought the ref was gonna stop it, so I let it go, and the ref didn't stop anything, and I was like, oh, okay. So I had to crank it a little more, and yeah, so he tapped into the end of the round, but the ref still didn't call it. So, emotions were high. I was trying to, I wanted to be a little more nonchalant than I was, but I immediately got up and I told the ref, I was like, he tapped, and he was like, I didn't see it. And I was like, what, am I going to stand here and argue with the ref? So I just went to my corner and hung out,
Okay. When he doesn't tap, but in your face, your reaction, and everything you hear is, well, he tapped.
Yeah.
Like, there was a verbal tap that you heard. And by all accounts, it's like, well, it looked like that was a finish. What's going through your mind in between that round? When you said you went to go hang out with your group, it's kind of like the hangout you probably should have been doing at the end of a fight. Like, we did it. Instead, you're like, so what do we do in this next round?
Yeah, I mean, it was just my coach, actually, between those rounds, because he was upset that I was letting him hit me from the bottom. He wanted me to be Chris Coley wanted me to be controlling him more. So that's really all the advice he gave me between rounds. Like, you just got to stop getting hit. So I went out there and I was like, okay, well, that's gonna be the plan for this round. Just make sure not to get hit. And that went off perfectly in the third round. Just playing stand-up defense still, and finding the opportunities to get in. But yeah, between rounds, it was just like, all right, well, we got 2 more minutes. The 2 minutes just go by like nothing. I train with pros every day. I'm rarely the focus at training. I'm just getting all my work in, so I have to be on their time. So those 2 minutes were like absolutely just, my night was so short. It was cool. That's the shortest night I've ever had fighting. Sometimes I'll be there till like 10 p.m. because they'll put me like after the main card. I think SparStar put me after the main card last time. So, I felt bad for the organizers because they were talking about how it was hard to put this card together. A bunch of people dropped out with like the fires and everything, but I couldn't help but be like, hey man, I get fight number 6. I'm gonna go eat food after. It's gonna be awesome. So.
Well, you say that, and I'll give you full transparency on the commentator side. There's been plenty of days where I go, well, this is gonna. Oh my god, how many fights?
Yep.
Oh
yeah.
And then somebody very kindly will go, oh, but Raph, they're amateur fights, and I'm like, yeah, right. We still have to do them all.
Yep.
And there's going to be intermissions, and
someone's going to get hurt. We're going to have to wait for the ambulance.
Oh my God. Have you been there with that?
Okay. Everyone has been to their friend's fight, and you're like, oh, when you going on? They're like, I think 14th, and you're like, oh, cool, man. I'll be there.
I just knew that for you were in such a good space because it was a good fight for you, even though it was the shortest amount of time you were there. Yeah. You still went the distance, and you did a little bit of everything. You essentially got a finish that maybe didn't necessarily get recorded.
Finish in spirit.
A finish in spirit, indeed. Is that how you guys have branded it at the gym?
That's how I branded it in here. We haven't talked about it. I don't think we've talked about it at all, actually. No one's brought it up even. We're just business as usual.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going through all this inner turmoil. I know no one wants to talk to me about it.
Well, sure. But the nice part for you that I can hopefully have a celebration with you is that this is your first win.
Yeah.
So I want to ask this. What did it feel like to get this first win?
Honestly, I was not excited, but before the win, I was not excited going into the fight because I was really looking forward to my original opponent. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good win when I get this win. And I saw my replacement and I was like, I literally can't say no to this because there's so much of a skill gap. I've been trying to get this fight going for so long. Like it'd be silly of me to say no, but I wasn't stoked for like, oh, I'm gonna beat someone who honestly I felt shouldn't have been in the cage with me.
Especially that night.
Especially that night.
Yeah.
But God, I enjoyed that win so much. I enjoyed every bit of it. All I want is to win more. That's so. It worked out better. Yeah,
that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get into that place. People tell you this. I'm sure you've seen like a Justice League with Batman, right?
Yeah.
When he looks at the Flash, he tells the Flash, he's like, just save one, right? And the idea is when you learn how to do that, you learn how to save other people. For you, it's like just win one.
Yep.
Because then you know what that feeling's like. And if you've ever had a loss, and like your losses were by decision, right?
Yeah.
So you've come from a place where nobody's really knocked you out yet. Nobody's really submitted you yet. So to you, you're like, I just want finality to work in my favor.
Yeah.
And not only did you arguably get one win, you got 2 wins that night.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the record will not show that. Camo, we'll have a discussion about this later. But I would say, the question I had, because when I look at your record, is that you took 2 years in between fights. So what was that holdup? And then what prompted you to make it say like, you know what, I'm going to get this win, even if it takes time? Because most people in that time may not fight again.
Yeah. So I trained for a while before like I had my first fight. And the person who really put me on to this, like, you know, we gotta take a step back and skill build was Chris Padilla Taco. And he saw that what he would always say is like, I have the tools, you know, like I got a good kick, I got a good cross, you know, I got these good individual tools, but we didn't have like the glue to make it flow. So really it was just like spending some time changing the team up and just listening to everything Taco said, and subsequently Chris Coley, who Taco introduced me to, and building those skills basically. And once I felt more comfortable and we got that process down to where I was like, okay, let's test this out in the cage. I had a rib injury. I had another rib injury after that. Yeah, I was training so hard without, like, I wasn't good with my hydration. I sweat way more. That's always what people tell me when they train with me. They're just disgusted by how much I sweat. So that actually has an effect on me physically. I lose electrolytes really fast. So at one point I got rhabdomyolysis, if you ever heard of that. So basically you stress your muscles out so much that they start breaking down, and it could be like really dangerous. The doctors were like, dude, you know you can die. And I was like, I'm not going to get taken out by my own kidneys, you fools. Come on. So I had to deal with that, and that had me weak for like a few months. And then, I think this is the process of 2 years. I think like maybe 6 or 7 months after that original break, we were trying to get back in the cage, and then just one thing after another. Most recently, I was supposed to fight on November 18th, which was another, I think, SparStar 63.
Yeah.
I got so sick going into that one. It was awful. And I was going to fight it. I was going to try and just go through it, because we had basically had the whole camp done, but it was like the last 2 weeks, like, so the peaking weeks. And, when I fought my last fight versus Chris Martinez, I wanted to, like, I was sick going into that one, and then he would have beat me if I wasn't sick at that point, just where I was. But from then on, I was like, yeah, I gotta take care of myself more. I gotta be smart about the decisions of my career. So it made the tough decision to pull out of SparStar 63 because it sucks. Like everyone's had an opponent pull out on them. It's awful. So it sucks having to do it to someone else. But I mean, no one is going to take care of you in this business. I mean, more than you yourself can. So, luckily, my coaches really care about like where my career is going, and they were like, yeah, no, you shouldn't do this fight right now. So yeah, eventually we got to SparStar 64, and I think it was really great, honestly. Like it just kind of a blessing in disguise, because really like the last 4 weeks of training leading up to SparStar 64 was like, oh, we're finding this glue. We're figuring out like I move awkwardly, so let's use that to the advantage. Like the way my body moves is not normal. So like just being able to throw strikes from anywhere, but also not being out of position anywhere, So yeah, I was bummed that I didn't get to strike more, like lead the dance a little more. It was mostly me just like being defensive, but I was happy with my defense after the first round. But yeah, so I felt like I was ready like a year and a half ago. Now hindsight is 2020. I think I was really ready like 6 months ago. So whatever, you gotta, it just whatever works out, I guess.
Okay, a couple observations here. First and foremost, and correct me if the record is wrong here that I'm like detailing, but I felt like you were expressing this like in the post when you and I were doing our first interview. I was kind of like, hey man, congrats. And you're like, I'm a little mad I didn't do this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I wanted to say to you? Shut up. But I usually try not to be that dismissive, because I want you to feel your feels. The one thing I want you to feel is joy. And what I try to do as an interviewer is do the most polite version of shut up that I know. And mine was, hey kid, this is your first win. Let's not spend time trying to digress and like get into this other stuff. You'll do that on Monday with your team.
Very true. Yep.
For right now, so just so you know going forward, because let's assume great things happen and I continue to see you and interview you in the cage. Just know, if I give you this look, it means talk about something better than this. Because this is my first time meeting you when I walk up to do the interview. And it's very quickly me being like, yeah, okay. Anyway, so you did this well. And we were able to get to a good point. And even from there, I was like, oh, the kid's got a good sense of humor. Like, he's very well adjusted in terms of this is an incredibly crazy thing to do with your life. And yet at the same point, you seem to be having fun in your way doing that sort of stuff. And I said, all right, I kind of get that. 2, I can affirm the sweatingness. But I did notice something with your particular choice of apparel. So when you walked in, I was like, hey, do you want to get ready? And you're like, fam, I'm already ready. And like, you had essentially a breakaway jersey is what's going on here. And I go, oh, I thought you needed to use like the restroom and change.
No.
Nah, you went for the heavy t-shirt. And now that I put it together, I'm like, oh, the heavy t-shirt absorbs more of the sweat. Now I see your
precisely. Yep, my coach, Chris Coley, absolutely. We went to we were essentially guests at like a sports gym for a while, and we were training there. And he was so mad that I was showing up in rash guards, just being all sweaty over these poor normal soccer moms, and just splashing them, just get the floor soaked outside. He was so mad. He was like, don't you ever come with a rash guard again. I was like, I thought that was what you're supposed to do.
But what happens when you don't train with the rash guard then?
We just shirts, just shirts.
Okay.
That absorb the sweat. Yeah.
But when you're doing an MMA camp, don't you also have to go no shirt at some point? Are you?
At some point,
okay.
Yeah. But just don't do it with him.
Oh, right. Just with him. I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, there's nothing you can do to stop that. And I'm pretty sure if you took something for that, it would probably kill you now that we know what we know.
I think the only thing you could do for that is Botox. So yeah, I'm trying to, I'm not trying to get
I'm glad
a
you
shot in every pore. I wasn't happy about it when I was growing up. I was sweating through all my shirts. I'm like, how am I going to stop this? I just wore more shirts and more sweat. It was more hot.
Understood. So, the one thing that I was initially going to tell you before we made this realization together was I was like, oh, he's wearing a shirt. There's one thing that happens with people who wear shirts that I always get nervous about in a jiu-jitsu class. Is it starting to like tear? And I just started thinking, I was like, oh, if that tears and it's my idiots, it's on me. Because I started seeing it get a little bit like this, and I go, don't dare in my class. I'll feel so embarrassed.
No, I have one shirt exactly like that. That's like 2 sizes bigger, and it's completely ruined already. So I'm,
Do you still use that one to go?
I do still use that one. Yeah. I just don't grapple with it. But
That's fair.
That one would have been added to the striking only pile.
Because there was a time where even like sometimes I'll use like tank tops. Like today I'm teaching in a tank top.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if this dies, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
But at the same point, I go, listen, rash guards get real quick to be in a specialized laundry pile. I'm like, this tank top can go with anything,
right?
Especially if I'm not training super hard. So I have a system and a method to my madness. So when you walked in, I was just like, oh, the t-shirt's where we're going. I wanted to ask you right away. I was like, do you like that t-shirt? And then I realized I was like, I think I know the answer.
It's cozy.
But I just knew as you were coming in, I go, oh, okay. So when you mentioned you were sweating a lot, I was like, honestly, dude, I think all of jiu-jitsu and MMA is gross. So I just go you know what? I just understand it from the get-go. And if people are fighting, it's like, well, sometimes they got to do no rash guard. So they do what they do. So I'm glad you came to that realization very quickly, because that can be, you're the sweaty
You just
guy.
want to be a little bit of a better training partner, You have to deal with people just inherently disliking you for a little. That's fine. Just charm them a little.
I was wondering, you mentioned this as well, and I don't want to move on from the fight just yet, but you mentioned all the things that you said to your opponent. And now that I'm like putting this through in my head, how much were you talking throughout this fight?
Oh, not too much, just enough, I guess.
But you mentioned there was full sentences. Like you were mentioning like, oh, I was telling him, hey, this, and he was telling me this. Like
just like once in the action, like I was on top and he was hitting me from the bottom, and it's just, when someone hits you from the bottom, you're like, you're being silly. You're about to get really hurt right now. So I just told him like, hey, I will eat those all day. My coach wasn't happy about me eating them, and after I did have a welt on my forehead, so maybe it was dumb of me, but you don't feel that when it's fight
You're
time,
in the adrenaline rush stage. You don't feel stuff.
Yeah.
Pain doesn't happen yet.
I like it. I like that feeling.
You do?
Oh yeah.
Well, now we know.
Because the calm, it's different from like from adrenaline of like being afraid of something. Like going down a roller coaster or something. Like I don't like that. I don't like that feeling. But being hit in the face and you don't feel anything, that's pretty cool, I think. Yeah, but I just. Between rounds, this is probably the biggest dick move I said. I was like, we both know you lost already. That's what I told him between rounds. And honestly, I just saw him deflate. I was like, oh man, I've broken this sport. I didn't know how old he was, but I was like, I'm sure he's younger than me. I've broken this poor boy right now.
People didn't probably care when they were beating you before.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be very clear about this. I'm very sad I know this information now. We probably should have done the interview first and then rolled, because I am known as being a trash talker.
Oh,
and here's why. I like to roast people because I feel like I'm funnier than I am good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So there are people who I'm like neck and neck with in jiu-jitsu, and they'll be like, you won't pass my guard. And then I'll say one out-of-pocket thing about them in their life, and then I pass their guard easily, and I go, now what do you have?
That's
Nothing.
perfect. There's a whole video game combat system predicated off of this. Insult sword fighting and in The Secret of Monkey Island. Real ones Get that deep cut.
What is
going.
that? What are you
Let's
talking
go.
about?
It's like a point and click adventure game. So there's no like real combat. So you had to, but you still had to master sword fighting in order to become a pirate. And you master sword fighting by throwing out the proper insult to and the proper comebacks to someone else's insult. So it's a LucasArts classic. If you like puzzles, you should check that out.
All right. We got into the part where you're wearing glasses and you're I need to ask this. Have you played this game and are you good at it?
It's you can't really be good at it because it's I mean you can be good at it, like, you know, like there's definitely someone out there, they're definitely like half the population out there who's better than I am at this game. Yeah, this is like the first video game I ever played. It's like it's oh man, it's a point and click adventure, so it's like I have all these things on the table to interact with, but like I have to solve it. Like maybe we get locked in the gym and we have to find a way to unlock it, you know. So it'd be something as silly as like, oh, this laptop's heavy and that window's brittle, so you pick up the laptop and you use the laptop with the window, and then, you know, your character chucks it through the window or something like that. Or maybe he'll like look for a password to open all the stuff up. So it's hard to I hate telling people about the games that I like, actually, because I'm like, how am I going to explain things to you? Yeah,
this is
like,
fascinating. Hold on. What are you talking about? I have a nerd in my presence. Normally, like at this gym, people are like, nah, Raph's a nerd. I was like, I just know how technology works. You guys are all here. Jiu-Jitsu is for nerds.
It's for pop culture nerds, yeah.
Tell me more. What's another game that you do?
Again, well, right now I'm getting into this is like, you know, this is like getting in on the second wave of maybe like the 15th wave of popularity, but I'm finally into Warhammer 40K.
Okay.
And I'm building my own army, and I'm painting my minis right now.
Hold up. I saw something on your stories. Did I see like a Pokemon that you painted?
Yeah, I did not paint that one. That was just I
didn't know her.
I'm not that amazing.
Your Honor, your officer. She was just in the car. I didn't know who she was. I don't even know her name.
I wish I painted that, is what I'm saying.
Okay, it looked really good.
Yeah, no, that was just like someone. That was my sister. She bought it from. For her boyfriend.
That's adorable. Oh,
yeah.
She bought it for the boy. So you were just taking a photo of it to be like,
it's super cute. Yeah, it was like. It was like a really soft bed, and so depending on where you put it was Charmander sleeping on there. Yeah. So depending on where you put Charmander, he would like sink into the bean. It was like a beanbag, and you sink into it just right.
Can I just point this out? When you were worried, like, oh no, I might show my nerdiness, and then all of a sudden you go, it was a Charmander. In case you wanted to know, Raph. Just so you're clear, not just any Pokemon.
I just want to give people, you know.
Paint the picture.
Yeah,
it's perfectly fine. Okay. The reason why I ask if you're good at it or not is because when we talk about roasting, first of all, when you mentioned the role-playingness of it, I was like, who gets a laptop and throws it through a window? First of all, you need work if that's the first thing you're going to do.
Oh, yeah.
But I understand you're making an elaborate point.
It's just an example, you know. But there was... All right. So the most absurd puzzle from this whole game series, because it's a whole series. It's very beloved. It's from like, I think it came out in like 1998, and they made like the most recent installment like a year or two ago. But there is a series of pipes that you find, and there's a waterfall that you need to get behind.
Okay.
And so first off, your character's like, what are these pipes doing in a pirate game? And eventually you're like, okay, well, I need some sort of wrench to shut these pipes off. So you go to some other area, and there's a monkey playing piano, and there's a metronome on the piano, and you might find that you have a banana in your inventory. So you interact with the metronome and the banana. You put the banana on the metronome. Monkey's focused on the banana on the metronome. Yeah. You pick up the monkey. You put the monkey in your pocket. You go all the way to this old island that has these pipes that you may or may not remember. You're like, how am I supposed to work with this? So you get the monkey and you use it with the pipes, and he's a monkey wrench. So he shuts the waterfall off. And that was the most upset I've ever been with that game, because I was like, how was I supposed to figure that out? I looked it up. I never figured it out myself.
Bryce, is this the time when you want to learn some information?
Sure.
I know that game.
Do you?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What is your producer like telling you in your ear about it right now?
Thank you. No, I'm just old, Bryce. So things that you're like, it's a really old game. It was in 1998.
It's as old as I am. Don't call it too old. Yes, I'm.
The way you were describing it, that's why I needed to hear you talk about it more, because I was like, why does this sound familiar? And you know, the person who showed it to me is legitimately the smartest human being that I know. So you're in good company.
Let's go.
But this is a dude who like scored perfect on his SATs, was like valedictorian, the nicest human being I've ever met. And he was somebody who, when he was in the National Honor Society, he came up to me and he's like, you should be the National Honor Society president. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, you should. And I go, but don't I have to be like you? Like, dude, I don't have grades like you. I'm not like you. And he goes, right, but you can talk. And I go, oh, that is fair. And he goes, look at these nerds. They can't. And I go, you're right. And
he's
goes,
like, you need someone to lead them.
He's like, we need somebody who can speak nerd, but maybe isn't as dumb in ways that they're not smart. And then at the same point, maybe recognizes he's not trying to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
He just knows he's smart.
He just is. Yeah.
And knows where he's not smart, which makes him smart.
You got like crowned king nerd by like the
nerd
pope.
Dude, the worst part was he did it. And I go, do you think they're going to like vote for me? Because I don't know that I would vote for me. He's like, they will. And I'm like, went up. I'm good at speaking. I made some kind of speech. And they always pick two co-people. I got one of them. And the other dude was just like him, a valedictorian. Yeah. And this dude, this is like a little hint of me and this dude. This dude went to Boise State with me, which essentially, if you don't know what that is, it's like a nerd government sort of thing, but you have to apply for it. And I got it because at the time, like Eel Scout, played a bunch of sports, pretty decent with grades, not better than these guys, but like they looked at me and they're like, all right, we like your jib. You'll do perfect here. They get him. They're like, oh, dude, this dude's really smart. We got to make these guys together. So he and I had this partnership. We go to this event, and it's like a week-long event where you learn how to be a government, which is as stupid as it sounds. And I went in being like, I'm going to go show him. I'm going to go like balls to the wall. I got elected to a pretty decent post, which is what you're supposed to do. And then I became the editor of the daily newspaper. And I was like, I think I did pretty well.
Storied career.
Yeah. This dude was like, I'm going to do nothing. And I go, what? I go, you're the smart one. He goes, no. He goes, I'm going to do nothing because this is too much work. And I just realized I'm not. This dude, to my knowledge, and don't attack this poor human being, I think he was one of the people who created one of the vaccines that helped fucking COVID. What? And I'm like, wait, see, this is why this dude did nothing, so that he could make something with his life and help human beings. He like had this beautiful story written about him. I was like, cool, this went exactly like I thought it was going to go. And the smartest dude I know that told me to run for the post, who was right. I think now he's become like somebody who makes graphics for movies in a very advanced way. So this dude could do anything in this world. He chose to be in the movie business and create graphics. So what I'm telling you is, you're in that company when you make those notes and you're telling me about this game that I go, oh my God, I remember when he pulled us aside and goes, hey guys, we're going to play this game. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And he goes, just play it. I go, what am I doing? Why is this fish here? Why?
The fish, the red herring.
Yeah.
That's a good joke too. Because you have to distract a bridge troll with the fish, but it's a red herring, so you throw the red herring. I'm real into that one.
See? And now that you mentioned all of these things, it isn't profusely made me laugh. But I guess I should come back to my central question, which is, so the next time we roll, am I allowed to roast you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
you're good with that?
You cope with not being great at jiu-jitsu by talking shit. I cope with getting smashed by talking shit, you know. Okay. Like, oh, hey man, you know, like I'll tap, but only because I want my arm. Like, it's not hurting, you know. There was a point where you were trying a modified arm triangle on me, and there was just a perfect amount of space where I could keep breathing, and I wanted to be like, what are you doing with this space there, you know?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I would have said back to you, in this amount of time, I guess I'll let you out so I can beat you up some other way. And I thought, like, I just got to my space where I was like, hey man, you don't have a ton of time to roll. We kind of have a rule, which is if you don't get the submission initially, and I'm I don't want to muscle this. So let's just move on and play.
Right.
It's really what we're doing when we do this.
Yeah, I did feel you just voluntarily let it go.
Yeah,
I didn't escape for real, but I annoyed you enough to be like, all right, whatever.
I'll be honest. I was just looking at the time. I was like, well, we got 5 more minutes. And
I don't want to be stuck there for 5 minutes.
And I knew there was something else I was going to try and hit. And I was like, let me see if I can do that within 5 minutes.
Maybe the folks at home will see.
You know what? Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. But I can tell you this. A great roll, super fun. And what I like to do is, you get to see the personality of the person. And all you were doing when we were rolling was you just dialed in, you were focused, but you're not a dick. You're just trying to like get good routes.
Yeah.
And that's who I gravitate with when I'm rolling. I'm like, no, I like people who can have fun and realize that this is a dumb sport, but that at the same point, like, you should enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, if you get into a dumb position, you should make fun of it. Be like, what the hell did we do here? Like, how did this happen? And then in our particular case, there was a moment where you're looking at me, you're like, huh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, that was weird.
And I just looked at you
I was like,
and
I will tap to that. I will, because I don't feel comfortable
when
here.
you said I'll tap to that, I almost busted out laughing there too, because it was just like, yeah, okay, that seems all right. I'll tap to that. And I go, that sounds like so funny to me, because no one ever, like, they might just be like, hey man, you got this. Or, yeah, it's not there, but whatever, I'll let you have it.
I'm still like, I'm still pretty young. Like there's every so often there's just a position you're in where like I'll fucking die here, man.
Is that so? Hold on, okay. I would like to know, what is that position you would die in?
A lot of the times, like a Kimura. Like I'll die to a Kimura because like it's I feel like my shoulders are so weirdly broad. Like I can get this out right here for a long time before someone's really able to just to crank it the way that they need to go against the fulcrum. I don't know if that was proper English, but
I just put an arrow next to Kimura for the next time, just so you.
Hopefully you got to remember. Yeah. Well, you hit the Kimura anyway. All right.
Oh, did I? Oh,
I think so.
Oops.
Oh wait, no. No, I got out of it because I'll fucking die there.
The reason why I have this reaction to this particular thing is we're joking and we're rolling, but you were such a good training partner that you were showing my guy, you were helping me demonstrate how a Kimura works.
Yeah.
And because, again, this is how new my kids are. They're like, I don't know, man. What's that one move that you do, coach? Yeah. And I go, oh, okay. It's a Kimura, kid. He goes, yeah, I think I can do that. I go, God bless. I hope you can.
I'm excited for their first competition.
Me too. Yeah. But then I'm demonstrating on him, and I looked over, and because he's being such a nice guy, I'm like, I'm not going to crank this. And I'm even telling my student, I'm like, you don't know this dude. I don't want anything to go wrong. If he's being nice to let you do it, I don't want you on your first thing to be like, what are you talking about, coach? Yeah. So I'm like, make sure to go slow. And I'm looking at you and I go, I think he has pretty flexible arms here.
Yeah.
Because I just saw this. And then instead of tapping, my dude just did this. And I go, oh, he's probably really fucking flexible. All right, good to know.
You got to keep those shoulders released, man.
Well, now I have a goal. Yeah. So now I know what I want to do. Okay, well, I'm going to come back to that. Let's get into this. How did you meet Chris Wartaco, if you would?
Through Fight Science. We both trained at Fight Science. He was there for a few years. But he just like called me one day and he was like, you want to, he's like training tonight at 8 p.m. And I was like, oh, okay, for sure. And I showed up and I thought there would be more people there and it was just me and him. And I was like, what the heck? This is so weird. But yeah, it carried on like that for a few weeks. I think this was like directly after my third fight. Yeah, so not much to it. He's just he's a man that gravitates towards hard work, and I think he takes great pleasure in building things up and watching skills develop. So yeah, I just very lucky to meet him. I really just listen to everything he says. Everything he says, everything Coley says, everything Chad says too. I just haven't worked with Chad as much, but that's I'm really excited for this upcoming camp where I just get like full time with all of them. But Yeah, nothing crazy. Meeting, just train at the same gym.
So for you, you thought it was him gravitating to you because you're a hard worker, you give good rounds, or you just, is it that you felt like you vibed with him? Because sometimes, and maybe this is kind of an explanation of this mentorship that happens in MMA and jiu-jitsu, where you see somebody or you recognize somebody in them, you're like, oh, I used to be this kid. I think for Chris, it just might be like, hey man, I don't know what it is, but I see things in you. Like when he mentions you got this jab or this kick, it's kind of like, oh, if we piece this together, I feel like I can give you some elements, or I can be a good mentor to you.
Yeah, I think he's just a guy that really understands how brutal the fight game can be, and how that brutality really demands your entire life. And so he saw people like working just enough to kind of get by, but not dedicating their whole life to it. So I think he just kind of wanted so when he finds someone who's willing to do more of that work, it's exciting. And it's exciting for me too. Like if there's ever someone who's like down to be at every training session, like we're spending the whole day together training. So yeah, now that you mentioned, I don't really know why. It's funny because one time he brought it up. I had a nice job. I had like a nice job at a stretch lab, so I was making enough to just barely support myself. I didn't go to college or anything. But he was saying like, yeah, you probably have to quit your job if you want to like be training the way you have to. And I was like, oh, but this job's so nice, But yeah, that he just like had a talk with all these people in his class. So a lot of these people don't see anymore because they don't, that just like wasn't the route that they wanted to go down. And he was like, I'm basically at this point he was like, I'm basically a stranger. I don't know why I care about your guys' careers, but I do. So, if you want to listen to me, you can. I took that really seriously. I really appreciate his outlook on the fight game and just, enjoying the process of fighting, enjoying being in the cage, enjoying the shit talk, enjoying people in your DMs calling you a pussy. Like it's so fun, man. It's such a good time. It's like one of my favorite things to do in games is just talk shit to the other team. Like I'm not good at video games either, so I love spending my time typing on my keyboard and just saying dumb things because I'm not helping the team anyway. So that it's it's like you get that in real life, but then we get to punch each other in the face after. So yeah, that's what I love. But yeah, he's just very guy who was born to teach people. I think guy who was born to fight. So he's just really good at both of those things.
That's awesome to hear. And I, and just kind of filling in a little bit of the blanks, it also feels like part of what may have grounded you at a time when you had that big of a break is the confidence that somebody like this is with you at that time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's one thing to hold on to this dream of fighting or doing that, but in those 2 years, I've just seen so many people be like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And it challenges you, especially if you're looking for that first win or you're looking for like, oh man, if I didn't win this time, it means my career's this. If you've got that long of a break and you've got good people around you, you will find your way not only to the winner's circle, but for martial artists, in my opinion, you'll find your way to the win, whether you know it or not. Mm-hmm. And whether it's in the cage, it might be that you level up in such a way that you learn something incredible. You become this great instructor. You become this great martial artist. Whatever it is your goal is, you find your way inching to it in ways that you never thought would happen. So I do feel like that is a good thing. I do have something I have to preface here because just so you know, right now we're at this gym. We're here late. We're going to start wrapping it up sooner than later. But there is an alarm that may or may not go off.
Okay.
So I'm watching. Okay, great. He's there. I was almost going to do a wager with you Because the way this works here at the gym is he can't just turn it off. It has to like start to go and then he has to press the button.
So our ears have to bleed a little.
So I was almost going to say we're going to bet on it, but he just texted me right now. He's like, no, I'm on it. And I was like, oh man, I was going to see if we could get a wager out of this kid to be like, you want to bet if he's going to get in the 30 seconds or not? Nah. All right. We may cut this part out. We'll figure that out.
All right.
I do have beef with you. Would you like to hear this beef,
I would love
sir?
to.
Okay. What do you think it might be? Given our short time of knowing each other, what do you think my beef might be with you?
I'm not fighting in the next few weeks, and you really want to watch an entertaining beat 'em up.
Technically, that's not bad. I
Right.
would be okay with that as well. That's a pretty good excuse.
Mhm.
No, my beef has to do with regionalness. You, sir, grew up in Hacienda Heights, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. You know who else grew up in Hacienda Heights?
Fergie.
First of all, I will fight you in this gym myself right now. I don't want to repeat the story, but I may have told it on an episode. You can go find it somewhere in this history of catalogs that we have. Who else?
This guy
This
right
guy
here.
right
This
Do
guy
you
right
know
here.
what my beef might be, Bryce?
Is it Los Altos versus Wilson?
Oh, wait, were you a Los Altos kid?
I was, yeah.
Oh, this explains so much. Bitter enemies to the end right now. Oh, man. Now that, if you had told me that beforehand, I would have gone so much more harder.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. No, I was too nice. I take it all back. No, my real beef with you is this. You grew up in a place that when I came home from college, I was like, I'm going to start training. And there were barely any places out there. How many gyms are now in Hacienda Heights for people to train at?
Shoot, I have no idea. Honestly, I would say the scenes in Whittier. You
Okay.
know, it's
But do you know the real answer? More. More is what's problematic
More.
here. So that's why right now, when I see that you have places to train, do you know how mad I was? Because I was literally trying to look for places.
Yeah.
Do you know the history for me? I'll just give it to you in a quick synopsis. Went to college, watched The Ultimate Fighter, said, oh, nerds can do this too.
Yep.
I was always a pro wrestling fan. Turns out I kind of know some stuff that pertains to jiu-jitsu. I didn't know that I inherited it. Let me find a gym. Did not have one.
Nope.
Moved to grad school in Kentucky from Illinois. They opened up a gym in the Illinois place.
Oh,
I get to Kentucky.
I thought maybe you were gonna find some wrestling.
Nope. At that point, I didn't know if I was going to do wrestling. I was a soccer kid. Whenever wrestling was happening, soccer was happening for me. So I was like, sorry, Brown's got to do soccer. I go to grad school. I see my friends starting to train at that school. And I'm like, what the? God, okay, fine. Get to grad school. I go, I'm going to train. Let's find a spot. The person who's like my boss, a very sweet Southern lady, goes, there are plenty of places to train around here. And I was like, oh my God, where? She goes, the closest one is 25 miles away. And I go, I don't have a car. Yeah. What am I supposed to do here? She goes, I mean, you could. I was like, but then I wouldn't be here doing the job for you. She goes, that sounds like a real conundrum, Raphael. And I go, ugh. I leave to come back to California, my home. They opened up a gym. Now I know people who are very sweet who train in Bowling Green, Kentucky and Normal, Illinois. So when I got back to Hacienda Heights, I was like, let me find a place to train. And instead, you know where I went to come train while I was living in Hacienda Heights? 10th Planet Burbank, because I was starting to work for NBC. Yeah.
Oh, that's rough.
Oh, it was the roughest. So you're working the worst hours in the world as the lowest part of the totem pole. And then you would go train, drive home, gross as fuck, and then you'd get home and your parents would be like, yay, let's talk. And you'd be like, I don't want to
talk about anything.
I hate everybody. I'm not good at jiu-jitsu. This sucks. And I'm so exhausted. So that's why when I look at you and I was like, I heard on the fight, they're like fighting out of Hacienda Heights. And I go, where? All right, kid. Let's have words.
All right. Well, this is we're still kind of in the same boat. Not fully.
I know that's
because I had
true.
to go to. So when I think I started like Muay Thai at some gym in Whittier.
Okay.
Some gym in Whittier. Didn't like that gym. Decided I wanted to do mixed martial arts. Started training at UFC gym Rosemead.
Okay.
It was like, oh well, all the coaches here are training at other gyms. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
probably, this is probably just kind of like a good place to get just start off. It was cheap. It was nice. Then I had to go to Millennia in Chino Hills. So
Yeah.
after that, so, it was never like still Hacienda Heights. I think they have like something called Hacienda Heights MMA Training Center,
Yeah.
like right next to, real close to Los Altos High. But I don't know.
You went to Los Altos, so you were right next to that. You could have gone there if you really wanted to. So the fact that you had places to turn down
Yes, I did.
is a problem because I didn't have that. So now when I hear you be like, oh, I didn't like that place. I didn't vibe with them. I was like, bro, do you know how many places I stuck around even though the vibes weren't right?
The vibes weren't right, man.
So
I've got the vibe privilege. It's all right.
when I see you over here just being like, oh, yeah, I mean, Hacienda Heights, crazy place. And I go, even if I went to Whittier, I know some homies out that way. I know plenty of places now.
Yeah.
But I have found perhaps the problem was me because every time I left a place, they're like, let's open up somewhere here.
They couldn't let you train too early. You would have been too dangerous.
Oh, my God. No.
They didn't want to unleash that on the world.
You know what? I will say this. I don't know that I would be better. Let's be very clear. But I probably would have been more annoying. So maybe it's worked out the way it was
I feel like
to.
if I had started combat sports at a younger age, like seriously, like I think if I had wrestled in high school, I would have been a real asshole.
Okay. I mean, you have the shit talking down.
Yeah.
You would just have more to say
Exactly.
that would back up those.
I'd be more
takedowns.
willing to do it. Yeah.
Fair enough. So let's get into origin story. Where does martial arts or jiu-jitsu find its way into your world?
I did taekwondo with the classic. I don't think they go by WTF anymore.
Okay.
But the World Taekwondo Federation. Yeah. That's
For
always
obvious
a good,
reasons.
Yeah. Walking around with the big backpack that said WTF on it was fun. But I the classic, like, get your black belt in like 3.5 years. I did that, and I liked competing with that. But in high school, I played water polo.
Okay.
I wanted to wrestle for a little bit, but the water polo team started traveling, and I wanted to focus on that. Shoot, I just did like a boxing class my first year of college, my only year of college, and and I really liked. I liked it. I didn't realize how crazy of a workout you could get. I wanted to make movies, like a little weirdo. So I wanted to make action movies, and I was like, all right, well, I want to make action movies that look really realistic. I want this stuff to look cool. But then I started learning Muay Thai to do that, and I was like, oh, I think really fighting would be a lot cooler than pretending to fight. So that's really it. That's the whole story. And then I threw my life away.
So let's circle back. What was your first class like? Do you remember your first jiu-jitsu class?
My first jiu-jitsu class? Yeah, I think like a 50-year-old blue belt hit me with a wrist lock and popped my shit. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Day one, you got hit with a
like
wrist
day
lock?
1, day 2. Yeah.
No.
That's what I remember for sure. I think my first spar, which funnily enough, Chris Coley worked at the UFC gym at that time, so I was like taking his striking classes. We just didn't realize until like last year or something. But yeah, then there was like another. I guess old people could beat me up because there was another like old Asian guy, and he hooked me real hard. Like I thought we were just gonna go soft. It was my first time sparring. The day before, Chris Coley was like, have you sparred before? And I was like, no. And he was like, all right, I'm going to have you drill over here. And then the next day, he was like, have you sparred before? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, all right, you're going to go with this guy. So he just hooked me super hard in the ear. And to this day, I have like hearing problems in my left ear. Yeah. So that's what I remember of starting to train, like learning that, oh, people are going to like try and hurt you for no reason. Because I always kind of like wanted to, I was like on the internet and stuff, like on Reddit, and learning about like etiquette to spar and everything.
Yeah.
From all those fucking nerds. and I was like, all right, so I better be nice. And it turns out no one's going to be nice to you. Yeah. So now I'm surrounded by teams that very professional with the way that we train, and focused on on getting great work in and not hurting each other, so that way we could get great work in again in a few hours or tomorrow.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was I got hurt a lot when I first started, and I get hurt a lot now too. But I don't think I've been like I haven't been seriously hurt since I started really like full time with Taco and Coley.
Awesome.
So,
Let me ask this, because this is one of the formative questions of the show. There's always a moment where people in grappling, obviously, if they get to this level where I'm interviewing them, they gotta love grappling or jiu-jitsu or MMA more than just as a hobby. Do you remember the exact moment when you're like, no, I love martial arts, I love this, I want to do it as an actual career?
I do, yeah. If I could go back to that moment, I would be like, you're a fucking moron, go to school. If I could go back a few years before that moment, I'd be like, get your ass in the wrestling room right now. But I think, I had like a crazy dehydration, like anxiety attack at my job, and I was just like bedridden for a few days because there's like my body's weird as hell. So I had like this enzyme that shows up in blood work when your heart's like stressed, like basically only when you have a heart attack.
Yeah.
But my heart was fine. So that happens anytime I get seriously injured. So that's really weird. But I was just stuck and not able to go train or anything, and I was like, I don't know what flipped that switch, but it was during that time where I was trying to recover, and I was just upset that I couldn't work out or anything, and I was like, I want to fight. I'm always feeling like violent. I want to fight for real. I want to learn how to do this, because everyone thinks they could fight, and I thought I could fight, and the thinking I could fight carried me for a little bit. But then I learned I couldn't fight, and then so then I had to learn how to fight. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. I understand what you mean. I have a qualifying question. You just said in your brain, violence is happening all of the time. Why is that?
Dude, I hate the world, I think. I hate being born into chaos, I'm always uncomfortable. There's never a spot where I'm comfortable. I'm always a little cold. I'm always a little itchy.
Are you uncomfortable now?
I'm uncomfortable right now. Yeah.
What is uncomfortable? I'm trying to make this as comfortable as possible.
I'm cold, my feet
you
are
have
like,
a jacket. You could have brought your
I
jacket
should have put
here.
the jacket on. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All these little inconveniences. Why can't it be like a video game where I could just like open up a menu and I've got my jacket equipped,
Because I'm also a human being. But the difference is I'm not just going to sit here and NPC for you. I'm going to be like, hey, if you were cold, dummy, put on your jacket. But instead, I'm sure you're like, no, I want people to see this shirt.
Yeah, I do. It's a nice shirt. I got it from Temu. So
it does look nice. I will give you that. It does look like a little bit of something Star Wars-y. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Let me say this, though. So part of it is, obviously, you are where you're in your environment. Sometimes you can be uncomfortable. What I found is I just voice my shit. And a lot of times it comes out through
I complain constantly. Yeah, don't worry about that.
But you have not complained at all. There was nothing leading me to believe you were having an uncomfortable aspect to this other than me being like, oh, he looks like he's fine.
It's all going on in here. And then I go home on Discord and I tell my friends stories.
I swear to God, if you fucking talk ill of this show on your Discord, we're having more rounds the next time.
Don't worry, though. You'll get an invite. You'll be able to hear this shit talk.
Thank you.
We need more men to hit up Marvel Rivals right now.
Oh my God. Is that the game everybody's playing?
That's the game that everyone's playing
right now. I see all the children are playing that one. I'm so far removed that
that's why I'm really upset with that, because I suck at that game.
Really?
My friends are all really good at it.
Okay.
They're like really high ranked, so it's like hard to even play with them.
Do you spend more time just trying to get better at it?
No, they literally tell me to practice. I'm like, I'm not gonna. I fucking practice other shit every day. This is not the most important thing in my life.
Are these the people you train with?
No. These are people I grew up with. These are other Hacienda Heights natives.
I know these people.
Yeah.
Here's what you do: invite them to come train. Because
Oh,
if
they would never.
Well,
They would.
hold on. You have to learn a certain kind of shit talk to get them to come train. Because if they're talking this much shit to you and you are actively not good,
Oh yeah,
you are
yeah.
playing a simulated fight game.
That's okay. So this is what I tell them every time, because they're, you think, if you think I can talk at all, these guys make me look dumb every single day. These guys are like so much wittier, and they're so snappy.
Okay.
So I'll get on and they'll just be like talking shit to me, and I'm like, dude, it's literally not fair that you can use your gifts of shit talk and just your eloquence in making me feel terrible about myself, and I can't go beat you up. Like you're gonna call the cops on me, your dear friend Bryce, who you've known for 15 years. So let me get a little slap in or
See,
something.
here's what you have to do. You're just promising violence. I like to sell them on the virtuous aspects of jiu-jitsu and be like, no, it's all nerds that come here. We're all civilized. It's fun. And then I hit them with
So you're trapping them. You're laying a trap.
Oh, it's not a trap. It's an equalizer. Because they've done something to provoke it. I don't pick on civilians. I make very clear, expressed rules. I have my Batman rules, which are like, if you don't train, I don't really feel like picking on you, unless you do some dumb shit to people I love. Okay, that's not something that happens a lot.
It's not fun. It's not fun to pick on people.
No.
Yeah.
But then, and this is kind of what will explain why things happen, when my students are like, why don't you teach us how to hit a Boston Crab? I go, children, first of all, highly illegal for a tournament. Second of all, I usually do it to people who are pro wrestling fans. Then I do it to them because they know it's coming. Or if they see it's happening, they are like, okay, he's not actively going to hurt me. And they're not as sore about it because they're like, that's actually kind of impressive if you can do that. Civilians, only when they're rolling dumb, someone says, I bet you can't. Or I'm just kind of like, I'm bored now, so I'm just going to do it.
I bet you can is a big one.
I bet you can't is the one where I go, uh-oh.
I bet I can.
I just go, how much time do we have? And you would be surprised the number of people who go, I can't believe you got me in that dumb move. And I go, I don't know, you told me I couldn't. So those are the people I pick on. Civilians, they get the easier version. But I will say a couple of my friends have been like, especially like dudes who I used to like wrestle with and just have fun and horse around, will not come because they're like, you're too good. And I'm like, right, but I'm an instructor now. It's a little different than us being at like a camp and then just getting bored. So it's just like, can I power bomb you onto this mattress? All right, let's see if that works. Now I'm just like, if I do power bomb you kids, how can you get a triangle while coming down?
Yeah, and you got to protect the back of your head, kids.
Absolutely. Listen, that will live on in perpetuity if you get the submission and it's an armbar.
Yes.
But anyway, so cool. I'm glad that's the case. I'm glad that you found this path because the nice thing for me is I like seeing people who put in hard work getting rewarded. And even if I don't know the hard work, I still know what it takes to do that and to stay mentally focused and get that win. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen it as a commentator where you're just sitting there and like you see a record of somebody and you're like, man, I hope they get this win.
Yeah.
And then for you, it's knowing, all right, there's a 2-year break. That's a story. Okay, cool. How do you find that?
Right.
And then continuing, even though you know you're part of this good team, like you know that you're going to get more refined and better as you go.
Yeah.
So the weird part is I hear you telling me now, like, man, I wish I was good at wrestling. I was like, I want to make sure you know something. The room you're currently in, your wrestling's going to go up.
Oh, yeah.
So I felt like my time to strike and do wrestling rounds with you should have been today. But we'll revisit it.
I think I'm better at wrestling than I am at jiu-jitsu.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jiu-jitsu is like... My jiu-jitsu game is wrestling. Like I'm gonna smother you, and if something pops out, I'll take it. That's it.
That's such a stupid rule to have. It's like if something pops out, oops, oh well.
I need to focus back on jiu-jitsu. I was doing like mostly jiu-jitsu when I first started.
Yeah.
but we found that I was pretty okay at controlling people. So it's like, how do you get in to control those people? It's like,
Okay.
I don't want to be guessing to get in, because then that's how you get caught with something.
Yeah. Well, even your takedowns and the stuff that you were doing in your last fight, very informed, very smart.
Yeah.
And I liked how you were playing. You played to you call it awkwardness. I just found it that if you can figure out how to make your body type work for you, find that special power that you have. So it's very difficult when, like, you saw a little bit of it today with my students, where I'm like, I'm not telling you what you're good at yet. I want to see it.
Right.
And then
and it takes a long time to know what you're good
for real.
at. Yeah.
And like, sometimes you might go like, I thought this was my game. And then 2 years later, you're like, that was
like, it turns out I just watched that guy on YouTube a few times.
Right.
So I was like, this is it,
But nonetheless,
rubber guard.
Oh God, no, it's not rubber guard for me. I'll tell you this much. But I wanted to give you props, man. I was very impressed with the way you carried yourself. And I feel like with the team that you're on currently, you just keep going forward. I think you're going to have some surprising and fun things coming along your way.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It was very nice when I see somebody take the most of their opportunity on the microphone, I always go, then let's talk a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad we were able to make this happen. The way we like to close things up here is that camera right there, sir. If you will stare into it, I want to give you an opportunity to thank anybody that you want to, give plugs, shout outs, sponsors, all that good stuff. And then maybe even let the people know if they're ever interested in training with you, where they can find you, et cetera, et cetera. So that camera is all yours, sir.
All right. Well, first, I'm going to thank my mom. And then I'm going to thank my grandma, because without those two, I would definitely not be able to spend all the time that I do training. Thank you to Jumpy Kickboxing, Chris Coley, Jumpy Kickboxing. My whole team there. Thank you to CMMA for welcoming me this past camp. Chad George, just really appreciate the drilling going on there. And thank you to all my friends and family for supporting me on my dream. Just having a great time. If you want to train with me, you can find me on Instagram. Train out of a place that we call Backyard Squabbles. So if you know the Backyard Squabbles promotion, we train out of there. So or I could come over. I got privates going on that we can get this figured out. If you want to learn how to find that glue, then I'm the coach for you. Let's do this, huh?
Oh, God, no. You know what? You were doing so well until the end. I was legit like, all right, that's a pretty good sell. And then the end, you're like, I think I need to make it rhyme. And I go, please, under no circumstances, make that rhyme. Well, sir, I will tell you this. Like I said, not only was it fun to watch your fight and get to know you a little bit better, but it does take a very high caliber human being to show up on a random Monday, not only to come do this and do these interviews and roll with me, but to really help my students and like be an active member of this group when you know what it's like to go back to those days of being that new and going, I don't know shit. I'm just trying. It's exhausting. And it's really cool when I get to tell the guys, I'm like, well, you're here with a fighter. And they all look at me like, wait, am I going to die? And I go, no, I told them to not kill you. Yeah. You're going to be okay. I also get the vibe check. This is not the kid who's going to come in and be like, it's all A game. Fuck this guy. So I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. So I hope you know that in the future you have an open invite to come train with us anytime.
Most excellent. Thank you.
I look forward to the next time we get to train, sir. And you know what, guys? I actually think that is going to do it for this week's installment of the Grappling Hour. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this one. It was pretty good. Bryce, good kid. I got to tell you this, though. If you did enjoy this, hit the like, the subscribe, the comment button, all that good stuff. It really does make a difference. So hopefully if you did like it, in the comment section, if you wouldn't mind dropping us a comment, here's the prompt this week. What is the nerdiest video game you have ever played? You heard Bryce talk about his. I'm sure you got one. I don't know all the video games. I am old now to the point where I am surprised by just about most things that kids talk about and do. So please say that in the description. You can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/grappling hour. Become a member, subscribe, find us on there. It really does mean a lot to us if you guys Give us some love there. And every dollar that I make on that goes directly back to this show. So much appreciated, especially to our premium users. You guys are the backbone of this show. Last couple of reminders. If you guys could also find us on Spotify and or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get there, rate and review. It really is kind of cool if you would do that. And last couple of reminders. I know I'm down to 2 last ones. You guys almost should know them by this point, probably better than I do. But we're getting to the point where if you want some of this merch, this Grappling Hour shirt or a hoodie, find me at rapasparza.com/merch. Again, every dollar there goes right back to the show. And last but not least, if you want to join our Discord at Grappling Hour, you'll continue the conversations that way if you're on the show. All right, ladies and gents, that's going to do it for us here at the Grappling Hour. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. It has been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.